What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 6's DraftKings DFS first look. This is for the 4-game slate. I don't mind doing this 4-game slate because you get Saturday, Sunday, Monday versus Thursday to Sunday. There's a practice in between. Most teams aren't practicing on Saturday or Sunday, especially for a Monday night game. It's usually film and rest and all that stuff. But we got Seattle against Orlando, St. Louis and Vegas, San Antonio and Arlington again, and then to end it Monday night, we get Houston at DC. Two top teams in their divisions right now. I'm really excited for that game. So let's take a look at pricing. So Ben DiNucci 11-5 against Orlando. I'm looking at that and it's like, yes. Like, you look at Ben DiNucci's last 2 games and who he's faced. You get Houston and San Antonio. You get Vegas and St. Louis. I put St. Louis and Vegas as 2 of the bottom 4 defenses in the league. 20 plus points. Even against Houston and San Antonio, 13 and 21. Ben DiNucci and those receivers should have a very good game. A.J. McCarron against Vegas. Another name facing, I'd say, the second worst passing defense, second worst defense. And A.J. McCarron's been one of the higher tier quarterbacks so far. 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year. Averaging 21.6 fantasy points a game. And a lot more consistent than Ben DiNucci if you look at it. DiNucci with 13 and 15. He's had a 35-point game, which really brought that up. But you look at A.J. McCarron's games, 18 is pretty much the lowest he's had. Highest is 28, so a little more balanced out. Brandon Silvers against DC. This is going to be interesting. We just learned that Kirkland is out for the remainder of the year, unfortunately. I had him moved up to my number 2 wide receiver in the XFL. He went above Josh Gordon for me. Josh Gordon is just falling right now for me, to be honest. But Brandon Silvers against that DC team. I'm looking for Houston to have a very good bounce back game. I look for this game to be close, but Houston to take it. And then for Vegas, it looks like Luis Perez is back in at quarterback. They're going with him. Going against St. Louis, I like it. You look at Perez's numbers of his 2 full games. One against Arlington, a good defense, gets 21 points. Throws 2 pick sixes, unfortunately. And then last week against Orlando, lights them up. 269 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks there. So I look at that St. Louis Vegas game as a very over game. And then Jordan Tiamu and Derek King, 8,000, 8,700. This is going to be a really big challenge for DC so far. So you look at some of the opponents they've had. 2 games against St. Louis, Vegas, Seattle, and week 4 is Vegas again, right? I don't know why they don't have week 4. But yeah, 2 games against St. Louis, 2 games against Vegas, and 1 against Seattle. So that Seattle game, they get the win. They don't throw a lot. They don't run a lot. It was under 200 yards, and they still won because of the turnovers from Seattle. This is going to be their biggest test so far. We'll see how they do. We'll see if they can pass the ball against this Houston team. I believe DC's going to rely on their run game. But they're going to be challenged, and they're going to have to throw the ball, and let's see how they do. But both those quarterbacks are pretty interesting pricing. I'd rather just go Perez if I'm looking at it right now at 8,600 than take a chance on those guys. Paxton Lynch, as far as I know, from the looks of how things went, Quentin Dormandy is taking over at quarterback. Last week had an uptick of what they look like. It was Dormandy, right? I'm not going crazy. Flowers got the touchdown. It was Dormandy. He was in. 6,000. I don't know why I'm overthinking this. But Paxton Lynch out, Dormandy in. They looked so much better with him in than Paxton Lynch. As far as I know, they're going to run 3 quarterbacks. They're going to have 3 quarterbacks in their lineup until they find one that moves them the ball. I like Dormandy, honestly, especially after his scandal. He played pretty decent, but 6,000 is a good price for a quarterback. That's all I'm going to say. I don't love the matchup against Seattle, especially what they just did against Houston, but you never know in the XFL. Kyle Slaughter, I don't even know if his job is safe anymore at this point. I don't know. I don't trust at 7,700. Jack Cohen, as far as I know now, his job is safe. Stennett got hurt, was in a brace, so it looks like Jack Cohen's going to be in the game, but that game was just ugly. Very, very, very ugly on the San Antonio offensive side. If you watch that game and you're a San Antonio fan, I'm sorry. I feel really bad for you. That was tough to watch. All it was 2-yard passes. It was a pass to the running back or pass to Fred Brown, and they didn't use their wide receivers at all. They didn't use Elias Mack. He had 1 target. Tolliver didn't have any. That game, I don't know what is going on in San Antonio. The play calling, they had a new offense coordinator. Something's got to change because that cannot happen again. To the running backs now. Abram Smith, 9,400, had the best game, I think, in XFL history, if I had to say. If not a top 5 performance, top 3. 218 yards and 3 touchdowns for him. Some big runs against St. Louis. This Houston team is a lot better at covering the run than St. Louis. But I think what stood out is Armstead was out. So they were just going with Abram Smith a lot. And getting a majority of the volume, he showed out. So Abram Smith, 9,400, his price is definitely deserving of it. Max Borghi, though, at 9,100, I think is an interesting guy to look for this week against DC. I think they're going to use him the way they kind of did early in the season, receiving, stuff like that, to just get the yardage. Brian Hill, though, at 8,900 against Vegas. We saw what DC's done against Vegas. We've seen what Brian Hill has been used in St. Louis. And, I mean, he just in the receiving game alone, he's being utilized a lot, and we love Brian Hill. Great running back, 8,900. That's a good price and a good matchup for him. Devion Smith here, 7,800. They don't have the numbers in for the game. Had a pretty good game against San Antonio, though. Faces them again, so you kind of get that matchup. Kalen Ballage down here at 7,400. In the receiving game, had a good game. The same thing with Jaquez Patrick at 5,000. Both those guys had a good game in the receiving side of it. But if we're being honest, I don't know what's going on with Morgan Ellison's price here. I get he's been banged up, but you look at the teams he's faced. I know he's been banged up, and maybe that's why. 7,300 against Orlando, yes, please. Bradwell was used. I don't know if they have his numbers. They do. Gets that touchdown. And I'd like to say TJ Hammonds as well. Got some work in. But if Morgan Ellison is healthy, we don't see him limited in practices and stuff like that, or does not participate. 7,300 Morgan Ellison is probably the steal as far as pricing goes right now. Keep going. I'd like to say Rod Smith for Vegas, but John Lovett seems like the guy to really go to for Vegas. Definitely getting some work in the receiving game. Some long receptions, but it's hard to say right now on that roster of who to really go to. Other than that, names that's sticking out. Torrey had a good game, but nothing else. I believe Farrell had a good game too. I'd like to say he did, if I can remember. But now going to the wide receivers, Kira Pearson. If you don't watch the XFL or you don't watch much, just go look at his highlights. Go look at just how good he is as a wide receiver. He's definitely somebody that should get a shot in the NFL. Now, do I mean shot as in he should be a starter, he should make the 53-man roster? No, but he's definitely a guy that you want on your practice squad. He will make your defense better because of just how crazy he is out route running. His hands are amazing. 11,300 Jaquir Pearson against Orlando of all teams. This is just something you want to go after. But of course, if you're stacking Ben DiNucci and Jaquir Pearson, that's a lot of money that you're paying for. So you have to be kind of critical of what you want out of your lineup. Jeff Badette against St. Louis, he's having a streak right now. In the last, they still don't have the game. I hate that they don't have Week 4 against DC. But Jeff Badette, 10-2. I don't know if I want to pay 10-2 for him. There's some other names down here. Hakeem Butler in 98. I still think Jeff Badette, it's a good matchup for him. A lot of good opportunities. Him and Perez are having a connection. It seems like Vegas knows that they need to use their top guy in Jeff Badette. So Hakeem Butler 98 against Vegas. I like that as well. Dante Burnett against DC is kind of shaky. I'm interested to see how that Houston wide receiver core looks without Kirkland. They did not look good against Seattle. They get another big matchup here against DC's secondary. So we'll see how they do. I don't know if I want to pay $9,700 for Burnett yet, though. Blake Jackson against Orlando. I think this is a nice bounce back game for him. Of all Seattle receivers, Shakir Pearson is just on another level right now. And then someone I mentioned to watch out for last week, Darius Shepard, 3 for 30, but on the return aspect, he is such an explosive player. He is so close every game now. It seems like he is that much closer to getting that kick return for a touchdown. So he has that upside of just getting you 6 points for a touchdown just on a kick return. So definitely a name to watch out for. Charleston Rambo, 8K against Seattle. We saw what Seattle's defense did against Houston. But Charleston Rambo getting some touchdowns here. Last week, 5 of 69 and a touchdown is a lot more of what you would want out of someone like him than against Houston, which, granted, Orlando's offense, very bad right now. Dormandy made them better, don't get me wrong, but that's what you want out of a wide receiver to get you some safer feelings about playing them. Is 5 for 69 and a touchdown versus 2 for 89 and a touchdown. That means which he did, had a very long receiving touchdown, and after that pretty much wasn't included, versus last week you start to see him get some more opportunities. Martavis Bryant was out against St. Louis. If he's in, I'd like to play him, but I don't know what Vegas is doing besides Badette. So Sal Cannella against San Antonio had a good game, I'd like to say, out of him. Some really good opportunities for him, just didn't cash in. But $7,600, yes, I'm okay with paying him. Going down here, Cody Latimer is finally getting the price he should get, like $3,000, $3,700, $4,100. Then they're like, oh, okay, let's price him up, $5,600. No, 29.4 fantasy points against Vegas. Get Seattle, some good opportunities for him this week as well, and gets up to 7,000. So between week 3 and week 6 now, you've seen him gone up for 4,100 to 7,000. So he's finally getting the pricing he should. Unfortunately, if you were playing him every week like I was, you're going to have to start making a tough decision if he's still worth it at that price point. Ostaprol at 6,800. I like him. I still like him. And I hope they get him more involved. But Darius Shepard is just playing really good. Hakeem Butler is on another level right now. And that's all we could say. I hope he gets included more. We liked him a lot. Jalen Tolliver, man, I can't go in a rant again for San Antonio. Not targeted once in that matchup against Arlington. I like Arlington's defense. I think they have a good defense. Don't get me wrong. They have a good defense. But their offense is terrible. Arlington's offense is terrible. San Antonio's offense is apparently even more terrible, if we're just going off last week. But he should be a player that gets targets. Travella Harris at 6,300. Now, this is where I'm okay with going with the Houston wide receiver. Now, you look at some of his numbers throughout the year. They're not great, but they're not all that bad. Arlington, 0 fantasy points. I get it. But you look, Seattle, Orlando, San Antonio, 6.8, 23.3, 8.1. A rough matchup, don't get me wrong. But the price at 6,300 versus if you're paying Burnett all the way up here at 9,700, you need a lot out of Burnett at 9,700 versus Harris down here at 6,300. Lucky Jackson, another name I mentioned, 5,700, a guy that is just climbing the ranks. His pricing is finally getting up there. Started the year at 49, went down to 46, and then back up to 5,700 right now. So next, Sweeting, has the three, I don't know why I'm thinking of Sexton. Next Sweeting, though, last week, 3 of 34 against Orlando. Pretty good matchup for him here against St. Louis. Cedric Bird's another name, 5,000. Got targeted quite a bit last week, but only brings in it for 20 yards, 5 of 20. But another consistent guy, a reliable wide receiver for Houston. So look for him to be a guy to target. And then down here, I'm still shocked that Tyler Vaughn's at 4,800. Like his price isn't going up. Another guy that started at 3K up to 4,600 last week. Or not last week. They still don't have it for the San Antonio game. I apologize. But only 4,800 here. Definitely in the same matchup where he had a really good game. Look at him to have another good game. Jordan Vesey down here at 4,500. Like I mentioned, for all Seattle wide receivers, you go down here. Juwan Green's another name. Like these are guys that you target and get some value in. Good matchup against the worst defense in the league. I think people, like, we go and look at their opponents really quick. Of teams they covered. They've covered Vegas. They covered the spread against Vegas. They scored points against Vegas. Vegas has a bottom two. It was two bottom two defenses in the league. In Vegas and Orlando. They covered that. Then they covered against Arlington, which Arlington has a terrible offense. I mentioned that. But their defense is good. You're now facing Seattle, who it's very hard for me to rank Seattle's defense. I like to put them now as a top 3 defense because they shut down Houston. They did. But, they don't, I don't know why. They just don't look as shiny as I'd like them to make them a top 3 defense. But this is Seattle's offense. They have been able to move the ball against all teams, even against Houston. And they turned the ball over 4 times. But getting back to it, of the point, Seattle's favored by 8.5 points. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with paying 8.5, 9, 10. Seattle should roll past Orlando. Roll past them. Matthew Sexton down here. I don't know who I'm thinking of right now. He's got 3 touchdowns. I don't know why I'm caught on it. It's definitely Snacks Sweeting. Yeah, it is. Week 4, he had the 3 touchdowns. Man, I don't know why that was giving me such a headache of trying to figure that out, but it was. But that's pretty much it. We go to defenses. Obviously, with Stennett being hurt, they have Jack Cohen. That team did not look good offensively. So Arlington's defense, yes, easily targetable. We go down. DC against Houston, yes, you can make a deal for that. 4,300. Really good defense, facing a good offense. Don't get me wrong. Seattle, maybe. Like I said, you look at their defense and they're not crazy. They're not crazy good, but they're good. They held Houston to 14, held San Antonio to 6, DC 22. St. Louis 20, I don't know what it is. I definitely think they're playable. Any team against Orlando is playable. That's not Vegas. Any team but Vegas is playable against Orlando. Houston against DC at 4,100. I think you get some value there. Even with, you look last week against Seattle, they get 4 turnovers in total. 2 sacks gets you 10 fantasy points, and they let up 20 points. So, definitely some value there for Houston. We go on. I still think San Antonio down here at 38. They had a pretty good game. I know they don't have it on here against Arlington. I still think San Antonio's defense is good. That's the only side of their team that's going to keep them in games until that offense figures it out. Vegas against St. Louis, no. And Orlando against Seattle, no. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I don't know what my schedule is going to be as far as getting videos out to you guys. I'm going to try, but I can't make promises. Working the schedule I'm on right now makes it very difficult to upload, but I do appreciate all the support that I'm getting on this content. I'm going to try to get some videos out throughout this week to compensate for the lack of videos that I have during game days. So hope you guys do enjoy all of the content. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.